The following segment is sponsored by Daniel A. White and Associates. It does not necessarily reflect the views of WDEL or Forever Media. Rick Jensen on 1150 AM, 1017 FM, WDEL.
Well, I think it should reflect everyone's views. I've been a happy client of Dan White for many, many, many years. And as you know, I've credited him with my being able to make some really smart decisions with retirement monies over even just the last year or so, just throwing ideas back and forth. What do you think's going to happen with the Fed? Historically, what do you think's going to happen with the market? Yada, yada, yada. And he's the reason that I actually made that decision by the first of this year to be just almost completely out of the stock market, like 80% of my retirement money's in cash. And it was just in time. So I always value Dan White's advice, experience, and knowledge. And obviously, I think you should, too. You can always give him a call at 888-690-8820, 888-690-8820, and have a conversation with the guy. So Dan's on the phone right now, as he is every Wednesday after news at 1:30, except for when he's not. Hey, Dan. Thanks for being on.
Hey, how you doing, Rick?
Good. So you've had some interesting programs on your Sunday program, 7 o'clock Sundays on WDEL, regarding the economy, regarding markets, and planning for the future and things like that. I just want to know, before you talk about converting Roths, is there anything you want people to know about that?
Well, it's kind of interesting. My tip today goes hand in hand with Sunday's show, because Sunday's show we talk about partial Roth conversions, and the thing I have to talk about today is really kind of it's kind of a client. We saw a woman come in and she wanted to talk about Roth conversions. She had already done some Roth conversions, and there's a couple things that you really need to be aware of before you just kind of go full bore into a Roth conversion. So
okay, such as.
So this woman, she was 69 years old, she was single, and she was still working, and she had about $1 million in a traditional IRA. So where do most people get their advice? She talked to her brother. Her brother is not a financial advisor.
Yeah.
But her brother told her to do, Roths were the way to go, and so she went ahead and she did a $200,000 conversion in both 2021 and 2022. And the brother said, yeah, you got to do this because his rationale is the market is down. Well, that is a good time to do a Roth conversion, because obviously when you do the Roth conversion, if the account has dropped, then you're paying tax on less money. But there are consequences. First and foremost, Roth conversions cannot be undone. You used to be able to recharacterize a Roth if the market drops, because then you're paying tax on money that you no longer have. But you can't do that anymore. But the one thing you have to consider is the tax ramifications. So, if her whole amount was pre-tax dollars and she did a $200,000 conversion, that's ordinary income in the year she did the conversion. So in both 2021 and 2022, she made $50,000 on her job, and now you're adding $200,000. So for a single filer who takes the standard deduction in both those years, those conversions vaulted her from a 12% tax bracket all the way up into a 35% tax bracket. So that's a huge, huge jump. And, maybe with some, finagling, you might be able to get her down into 32, but you're definitely facing higher taxes. So the better solution would have been to consider her tax brackets before she decided on how much to convert. Yeah, the markets may have been down, but the tax brackets don't change. And more precise conversions could have limited her to keeping the taxes into 22, or even if she was willing, into 24, but definitely not in the 35. So, our philosophy with people, and this is what the show is about Sunday, fill up the, whatever you're comfortable with. I mean, 22 is obviously a lot better than 35. So you want to fill up a lower cost tax bracket bucket and try not to stay into the 32s and the 35s. The other thing to consider, if she's 69 years old, sooner or later she's going to quit her job and go on Medicare. And as we know, Medicare has income-related monthly adjustments amount surcharges, and they're on a cliff. So $1 over that IRMA bracket level, and you dive headfirst into the higher level. So as a single filer of $50,000 of income, she was in the lowest IRMA bracket. But by adding that $200,000 Roth conversion, she jumped to one of the highest brackets. And in 2023 and 2024, she's going to pay significantly more for her Medicare premiums because of these Roth conversions.
Man, there's a lot. There's a lot to consider. Yeah.
There really is. I mean, you think, oh, yeah, I owe the tax on the amount converted, but then you got to look at your Medicare levels and everything else. So there's a lot to consider, and that's why, before you jump in and take advice from, your hairdresser or the plumber or something like that, maybe you ought to talk to somebody who does this every day and can advise you accordingly on how to minimize your tax liability.
And you do that, Dan White, 888-690-8820. Great advice. Best advice. Talk to a pro before you make one of these moves. And I was thinking about just the tax numbers they were talking about. She went from 12% bracket to 35% bracket. Well, even if the market's down, how do you make that up? Come even by getting 23% on your return. Good luck with that. But if you get down to 22% tax bracket, well, it's much more reasonable in stock market gains to make up that 10% then. And so that kind of makes sense. But then you talked about, Medicare premiums and all that. And by the way, something else that you guys know that people listening might not know is if you have that 1 year, and I learned this from listening to you and a guy, Tom Corner, who is an expert in your office with Medicare as well. And Tom was on the show talking about this. You've talked about this. Is that if you have one of these years where you have this one-time anomaly of income, that you can write a letter and say, listen, here's my accountant or whatever, and it's a one-time anomaly, and please don't increase my Medicare Part B premiums and things like that or Part A even because of that. So, that's interesting to know. There's a lot of moving parts here.
Yeah, I mean, you can appeal that, but again, the government is not going to be forgiving if, say somebody sold a house down the shore and made $1 million. No, your Medicare premium is going to go up. You can see, but the only thing they will appeal is, let's say, okay, I'm working, I'm 69 years old like this woman, and maybe I'm making $200,000, and now 2 years later you get that Medicare premium. We'll say, wait a minute, I'm not working anymore. I retired. So that's a permanent situation. But there's one-off items a lot of times, sale of a property or a Roth conversion. You're gonna get kicked up into those higher Medicare premiums.
All right. Good to know. Dan White and Associates, 888-690-8820. And On the Money, Sunday mornings at 7 o'clock. Get a cup of coffee and enjoy the program. Sunday mornings on WDEL. Thanks, Dan.
All right. Go Phils.
Go Phils. Every time.